Hi, I'm Charlie Collins, and we're talking sport. Yeah, we're talking sports, and this week on Talking Sport, I'm joined by former Donegal senior team manager and All-Ireland winner, John Joe Doherty. John Joe, you're welcome.
Nice to be here, Charlie.
Thanks a million. Nice to have you here. Just a few GAA things before we start talking to John Joe. Donegal All-County League Division 1 relegation playoffs are on this weekend coming. Dunloe against Claughaneely and Bundoran against Glenfin, both at 3 o'clock on Sunday. The Dunloe Claughaneely one's at the Banks and the Bundoran Glenfin one, Tyrconnell Park in Donegal Town. There's 4 senior reserve quarter-finals on this weekend as well. Also action in the Intermediate Championship, the Junior B Championship, and there's a number of league fixtures this weekend. 7 of the championship teams in the Senior Championship will be in action. Malin are the exceptions there. And the Buncrana Cup under 16 football is on this weekend as well. Donegal, Derry, Tyrone and Cavan are all involved in that. And of course we do know now that the Donegal Senior Championship quarter-finals will be played on the weekend of the 17th and the 18th of August. And Chris McNulty of the Donegal News was telling me earlier today that he believes the matches are going to be staggered to allow people to go to all 4 if they so wish, which seems like a good idea. Well, John Joe Doherty's with me, and we have to start, John Joe, with a look back to Croke Park, unfortunately, on Sunday. A sad end to what's been a fantastic time for Donegal in the last few years since Jim McGuinness took over from yourself as team manager. And I suppose reflecting on having you in today, John Joe, I was thinking that you would have known how he was feeling on Sunday along the sideline. I wasn't far away from himself and Rory, and I was watching them in the second half, and it was a torturous situation for them.
Yeah, Jim would have been in a very lonely position there in that all the way through the second half, really. Rory by his side, there was nothing they could do, really. You know, it's unfortunate that they had to visit the scene where they had a great September before that. It was such a joyous occasion, but you know, I think Jim said, when you're a manager like Jim, I suppose the interviews you do are all the time geared towards your players, you know. And I think afterwards he said that it was the only chance he really got to really make an honest interview, you know, and he said possibly the hunger wasn't there, you know, and it was no reflection on the boys. I mean, if you look back on previous All-Ireland champions, they all found it very, very hard to get up the second year round. In fact, the effort involved now in winning All-Ireland is probably makes it near impossible to be able to do that, you know, from a mental point of view. So I think that was really, our downfall from a point of view of what happened. But I mean, no doubt at all about it, people can't forget the great joy and happiness it brought to the county just less than 12 months ago. Yeah,
it's such a lonely place to be along the sideline, John Joe. I mean, you've experienced it, and you're out there, and you know you can make substitutions, but the way that match was going, it didn't matter what Jim or Rory did, it wasn't going to matter.
No, it wasn't going to matter. I mean, after 20 minutes in that game, it was going to be very, very hard to do, and no matter what Jim done, it wasn't going to change the result, which makes the job extra hard, you know. And Croke Park is such a fine big stadium now, you know. There is no hiding place, either on the line or on the field, you know. And it's just, you just have to grin it and bear it like a man, which Jim done, and you try to bottle it in a way, and if you can use it as motivation down the road again, maybe it might stand to you in good stead, because it's definitely a situation that a player or a manager doesn't want to be in. But you know, when you're involved in sport, you have to take the highs with the lows, and you know, without a doubt, within the last 12 months, that group of players have seen both sides of the scale.
And I mean, the obvious question now, and you've had to answer these questions in the past, and the lads were asking me when I came in here today to record this podcast, what went wrong? I mean, why did we lose the way we lost? And I mean, finding an answer to that is pretty difficult.
Well, I mean, like, anything that I would say here is purely my own speculation, you know. I mean, like, there is no definite answer to that question. It's probably not one thing. It's probably an accumulation of a lot of different things, you know. But you know, myself personally, I would think that the management and the team had planned to maybe to fall over the line against Monaghan in Ulster final. You know, if we had got a victory against Monaghan, the whole thing, their preparations to the matches would have been the same as all that has been this last couple of years. They would have got their week's recovery, and they would have got a chance to study the form and then lead into the game nicely, you know. But the fact that we got beaten in the Ulster final, not only did it possibly affect the confidence of the group in general, but it kind of threw the routine off as well, insofar as they didn't have time then to prepare properly. Laois and Carrigan-Shannon, even though it was a great victory and it put the thing back on track, it still took a lot out of the body, you know. And I would still say that the time we went to Croke Park in 2010, I think it was, or 09 maybe,
for the Cork game.
For the Cork game, we were coming off, I think it was our 4th or possibly 5th week in a row, and you know, no more so than Donegal last Sunday. I think that particular day the team was just jaded. And one thing about Croke Park now, you need to have a skip in your step when you're going into Croke Park. So we didn't have that. You know, it could be said that we didn't have it all year, but I genuinely felt that when the lads would get to Croke Park, that they would find a bit of enthusiasm, the fact that we were going up to Croke Park, but it didn't happen. And I would just put the loss of the Ulster final and the way it threw off preparations because of the extra match. But having said that, I mean, it's anybody's guess. As I said before, sport has a habit of kicking you, you know, hard when you're not expecting it, and you know, it's one of those things. But from my point of view, I think that could be a big part.
Yeah, the Monaghan thing took us by surprise, really, that they were so flat that day. And should we have seen the warning signs maybe before that? The Tyrone game was such a big game, and the Down game was a messy sort of an old game. You know, should we have seen maybe, John Joe, that maybe they weren't going as well as they should?
Well, possibly, and you know, the Tyrone. If you want to go back far enough, probably the Tyrone match was such a big game that we had to get up for that match. You know.
Very early in the summer.
And I think there was probably a peak in form at that stage, you know, even though we got the goals at the right time, and that game probably wasn't, it was a very, very good victory, but Tyrone would point that everything that could have went wrong on the day went wrong, you know. So leading on from there, you know, I think the big thing about it was that Donegal won the Ulster Championship in 11, and I think people were possibly, other teams in Ulster and the rest of the country were possibly putting it down as a kind of beginner's luck. And then they done it again the second time, and people really took Donegal serious, and they started to study the style of play, the way that they defended, the way that they broke from defence, you know. And by the time this year came around, especially with the record that Donegal had, you know, with two Ulster Championships and an All-Ireland, they really, really knuckled down and started to watch how we were playing, and you know,
they were ready for us.
James McCartan probably didn't have the quality of player to his disposal to carry out the plan, you know, the plan that he had set in place. But
he didn't get enough scores. That was his problem.
He didn't get enough scores, is right. He probably didn't have enough scoring forwards. But by the time Monaghan came along, and it was a nice dry day and practically a home venue for Monaghan, it was set up for them that they had the tapes. There's plenty of footage out there of all the Donegal players individually, and as you know yourself, Charlie, you can break these down to individual players now. So, I mean, like from a point of view of preparing to play for Donegal, Monaghan had a great chance of doing that, and they obviously did. And their players as well. I mean, I'm a massive believer, and a lot of it's to do with timing. You know, and a lot of them Monaghan players seen their end to their careers just staring right in front of them. You know,
last chance saloon maybe.
Last chance saloon, against an All-Ireland champions, against. Totally written off by the media, so it was really set up for them that day, and it was a hard task, you know, and believe it or not, I think nobody could deprive them of the victory, you know, the way it panned out.
I suppose the big question now, John Jones, difficult one for anyone to answer, is where to now, because you know, knowing Jim the way we know him, I would suspect it's not the type of performance or result that he'd want to go out on after all that he's achieved. But, you know, there's been a lot made about his own situation with the family and new arrivals on the way, and with the job in Celtic and that sort of stuff. And, you know, there's all sorts of rumours floating about this week that he may go, or he's going to stay and everybody else is going to stay. I mean, as someone who's so deeply involved in the GAA, you know, and it's only a few days after it, what would you say to them now at this stage?
Well, I mean, like, as long as I can remember, going back to my own playing days, you know, there's always a state of despair after defeats in the championship, you know, and the worst case scenario has always been thrown out there, you know. So I think when the dust settles, we will realise that we're not in such a bad place as it might just seem at the minute, you know. I mean, from Jim's own situation, he doesn't know anyone, he doesn't owe anyone anything, and I think he will be given the time and space. It's great as a manager to know that the county and the players would like him to stay, and he'll have that very much in the front of his mind. And from then on, he'll be able to sit down and obviously with Yvonne make a decision as to where he goes from here. It is a big commitment, and he has a young family. And I think regardless what he decides to do, I think that the genuine people in the county will respect that. But we didn't have, from a point of view of the players, though, but they didn't become a bad team overnight,
No.
And the club championship will start, and the game at Croke Park will move into memory. And come McKenna Cup time, or come September, October, when we're talking about having trials and looking at panels again, the whole thing lifts again, and that's the way it works.
That's a good point, John Joe. Life goes on, and we parcel it up and move on with it.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. The one thing that we'd be hoping to get, and we keep saying this after all championships, but the warning lights were there insofar as, Jim would have tried he would have looked at a lot of club championship matches at the end of last year. He would have tried a lot of men, and it's not his fault that he was working with a tight panel this year. We really need the young fellas in the county now to really put their hand up and stake a claim, and instead of admiring county players that they're playing against, go head to head with them, and let a manager that's looking for potential talent see that this man wants his place. And it's only on the football field that you can put up your hand and say that you want a Donegal jersey.
That's part of the problem, John Joe. I mean, that realistically, and we have to be realistic about this, we don't have that depth of talent that other counties might have. At the moment, you'd be hard pressed to say there's 5 players that could go into the county panel and make a difference to it. Yeah,
well, you need belief. I mean, again, it's not an easy task for a young lad playing club football to go head to head, with the county player, But if you take the likes of Kerry and Armagh, where players maybe coming out across McGlen would have that belief, where they had great success with their club. Club football in Donegal there's no real outstanding club in the county insofar as going on to win Ulster titles and the likes. So it's going to take the lads probably from the minor team, the county minor team, and the county under 21 team to really step up to the mark and go head to head with the present panel. And as I said, you'll need to, in the modern game, a county manager needs to be working off at least 30 players that are capable and really want the jersey, and unfortunately we didn't have that this last couple of years. So,
final point on it, let the dust settle now, let Jim reflect on it. I know they got together on Monday again, himself and the squad, and give them a bit of space to make a decision, because they've had a hectic time over the last 2.5 years, and they need that bit of space to reconsider. And I mean, there's no panic, because there's no football again now until January anyway.
No panic is right, and lost some of those players, have got married in this last couple of years and have children and that. So it is a massive commitment, and they do need that space. And last year they were playing right up until the end of September. The year before that they were playing up until the end of August. So they're going to get a longer break this year, and no doubt they'll use it well. And as I said, when October and November comes around again, I think we'll all be looking forward to the year ahead.
Hopefully. Just before we leave the senior stuff, the semi-final line-up now, Mayo versus Tyrone, Dublin versus Kerry. Mayo, Tyrone, you'd suspect if Mayo can keep that level of performance that Tyrone are going to be up against it, because Tyrone have got there, in fairness to them, and regrouped after the 26th of May, but they've been staggering over the line rather than racing over the line, John Joe.
Yeah. Well, you have to give Tyrone great credit for the way that they embraced the qualifiers, and where other teams seem to find it difficult to play on a weekly basis, they seem to thrive on it, especially their older players. I mean, Sean Kavanagh has been getting better as the games have been coming on, From Mayo's point of view, they haven't done anything this year that they haven't done previously this last couple of years, And I don't say that in a disrespectful way, but
that's the reality of Mayo.
That's the reality of Mayo. They've beaten the All-Ireland champions this last number of years now. I do think they're better equipped this year than ever before to go all the way, because they seem to have a swagger about them that I didn't see in Mayo teams this long time, and they have genuinely forwards that are very comfortable kicking the ball and kicking scores, and they have a midfield, so they do appear to have the full package. As long as they don't, they probably will be on some sort of slump after the Donegal match, but as long as it wouldn't be too great a slump, and if they can lift themselves again for the semi-final, probably in a tough game, because Tyrone always provide tough matches, but they probably would be favourites for that one.
Somebody said to me earlier this week, Donegal had their All-Ireland final against Tyrone, and Mayo had their All-Ireland final against Donegal, and sometimes that comes back to bite you.
Yeah, but in fairness, I am very impressed with James Horan and his, the way that he carries himself. Apart from the week leading up to the Donegal match, where I didn't think it was in order to be mentioning the Donegal captain, but apart from that, he does. He has carried himself well, and he seems to be saying the right things, and he appears to have a very good management team gathered around him, and they could go all the way, but I'm sure if you're a Mayo fan that has been travelling up to Croke Park this last 30 years, I don't think any of them are going to get carried away yet.
Yeah. Dubs versus Kerry. Kerry impressive in the first half against Cavan, less so in the second half when Cavan perhaps showed a bit more about them. But the Dubs, again, a lot of people talking about them. I don't think there's a finished article, but they're a dangerous kind of a team.
Yeah, I think that the two things teams playing against Dublin will look to, maybe for as inspiration is Dublin were unconvincing against Tyrone in the National League final, and last day again against Cork, they just didn't seem to be the finished article that they, that people might think they are. If they're put on the back foot, it will be interesting to see, are they able to play? Are they able to come back into a game if they're out of it? It is there for Kerry if they can muster up something that they haven't done this year or haven't done this last number of years. Maybe the clock is going against some of the key players, and their younger players may not be willing to take on the responsibility to carry the fight to Dublin. But Kerry are capable of, once they get to Croke Park, as we all know, they're capable of doing great things, and it would be very, very foolish for anybody to write them off. And
they'll enjoy going into Croke Park to play Dublin as well as big underdogs.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, there's one thing about a Kerry footballer, you can never doubt his ability. But as I said, it's just I would be more concerned about all their key players. Just do they have that? You can. One thing you can never get back is the yard of pace that you lose, as we all found to our cost. But
once it's gone, it's gone.
Once it's gone, it's gone, is right. And a lot of the time you don't realise it's gone until it's too late, So, I mean, like, if Kerry are still in the match at half time, you could see them going on and being very, very competitive. But, I wouldn't rule out either. Maybe a similar thing that happened to Donegal, maybe that could happen to Kerry as well.
Yeah.
You just don't know until the ball's thrown in what's going to happen. But I know that Dublin team, they are ruthless. If they would get on top of you, they'll not be easing up. They'll not be easing up to the last few minutes.
Two interesting semi-finals. Just before we leave it, John Joe, the GAA, Joe Brawley was very critical of Tyrone and particularly Sean Kavanagh. Now, I watched it and I thought that he was kind of lost the plot a bit, because you can see the point that he was making, but maybe the way Joe decided to make it kind of diminished what he was trying to say, because he just seemed to be lose his head completely. But this cynical play has been a factor for a long, long time. The black card's going to come in whenever next year, and they're saying that might clear it up. But I mean, my point of view was, there's very few players that wouldn't have done what Sean Kavanagh done to prevent a goal being scored.
Charlie, that's exactly right. And just on, Joe has been a very, very good pundit. If anybody that has been watching RTE coverage this last number of years, the whole Ulster football in the modern game, Joe has called it right every time, and I think he actually showed probably Pat Spillane and Colin O'Rourke up insofar as his understanding of it. Now, he never said he liked it. In fact, he would probably admit that he doesn't like that style of play, So his punditry has been very good. Sometimes, I don't know, he did go over the top. I mean, like, if we could think back in this county years ago, he went over the top on Rory Kavanagh a number of years ago, and even Paul Grimley earlier this year. I think his criticism of Paul Grimley was over the top. Why Joe feels the need to do that, I don't know. He probably is passionate. He was very, very passionate about the point he made regarding the cynical fouling. But, going back for as long as the game has been played at any kind of competitive level, that those type of fouls have been in it. So I think it's wrong to try to associate cynical fouling with the modern game day football, because that has been going on. Maybe it's been focused in. The game is getting far, far more analysing now than it did years ago, and maybe that's the point. But I would say, no matter what decade you're talking, be it the 60s, 70s or 80s,
the body checking and the pulling down was going on.
A player would have been pulled down in that exact same position, no matter what decade you're talking about, and they would face the consequences afterwards, but when you're talking about a match winning foul, that's I don't even see a black card stopping it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Scullion and Pat McGinney were very, very passionate at Congress about getting this black card in. Is it going to make a difference? Do you feel that the psychic of players will be, well, listen, if I commit that type of foul, the referee knows at liberty and more likely to use the black card because he knows he can send me off and a replacement will come on. And we know referees by their nature, John Joe, don't like sending players off to reduce the game to 15-14 or 14-13 or whatever.
Well, this is really only an issue late on in the match as far as I can see, and there's a time wasting element involved in the black card as well, so I mean, if a team is running out of time, do they really want their opposition to be given a black card and the whole process of a player being sent to the line and a replacement coming on, as far as I know, that's all killing the pace of a match, and that might actually work more to the team that are seen as the aggressors more so than the other teams. So, it is, I don't know, I still think myself there's enough cards, there's enough rules in the game to go and referee the match. Maybe I'm just too conservative in my ideas, but I can't see it, that type of tackle will always go on. Our teams will always use whatever advantage they have to win a match and close out a match late on games, and I don't think they should be too harshly criticised for that. I think the secret is the last few minutes of a match be ahead rather than be behind.
Absolutely,
and that's
more pressure on the refs, and again you hear the comment, a good ref knows a bad foul type of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the referees, I think the referees are the top referees in the country at the minute are good. I mean, like when you watch the games on TV, the amount of calls,
they don't get much wrong.
The amount of calls they get right is unbelievable, and even if you think about it, the amount of times that Hawkeye has been used so far this year has been so little that I don't think it had much bearing on games that much. So refereeing is a tough one at the minute. It's not the kind of job that you'd be breaking to take up at club level anyway.
Sure.
So listen, I think the GAA, from a point of view of administration, they're going to go down the road of black cards. It's an experiment that'll be interesting to see, but I think if they apply all the rules that's there at the minute, I'm not sure there's any need for them.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned the senior championship. We won't go into it in too much depth because they've put it back for a week, and I suppose that's a big positive because the county players need a bit of a break. But an exciting time now ahead at the club. We're going to get the club championship going a little bit earlier than we have for the last couple of years, and it's great because there's such a, I mean, it is the essence of the GAA, really, the club championship, and we're looking forward to 4 interesting quarter-finals, and I suppose the Glen Swilly Kilcar one, the big one, really.
Yeah, Glen Swilly and Kilcar, there's a wee bit of history built up there, this last while, and I would say it was probably an oversight on the county committee that the two teams were drawn against each other after coming out from in the first after playing in the first group stage together, But that's the card they were dealt, and that they'll have to go at it, and no doubt at all about it. It'll be a good chance, as I said, to the county players. We all know the county players, and we all know what they're capable of. But the people going along, the one thing about the people that go to club matches, they would tend to be well cued in as to what it takes to be a county player, and I think that'll be interesting times for them to see can they spot any new talent.
Absolutely. All right, John Joe, just a few other sports, and I'll get your views on these. Athletics World Championships in Moscow, and as I've been saying in recent weeks, they start on Saturday. We have Mark English out there, we have Brendan Boyce out there, Tori Pina, Finn Valley's out there, Maria McCambridge, who lived in Letterkenny and married to Gary Crosson's out there, and Teresa McDade is out coaching Mark English. So Donegal well represented out at the World Championships, and I suppose it speaks volumes for the level that athletics is at in the county here.
Well, there was always, going back in my playing days, there was always a connection between athletics and the GAA insofar as Eamon Harvey was my first trainer under Tom Cunnan, and then it moved on then to Patsy McGonigal, and there were two great men that were committed to their sport, and this is obviously reaping the rewards of men like that, but down through the years, my wee fella we were watching the TV and we seen Usain Bolt. Dara and my son seen Usain Bolt for the first time, and he's a phenomenal man to see, and we're looking forward to seeing him in the flesh.
Donegal connection there with Ricky Sims as well.
Exactly, and I think he's coming to the county later next year. As far as I know,
he's given that commitment. Yeah,
that's great stuff.
And as well as that, at the weekend, the combined events championships are on in Tullamore at the weekend, and the juvenile development track and field on Sunday down there. Soccer, Harps are back in action on Friday night, playing Salt Hill Devons, and a bit of a knock back again after their victory over Wexford Youths, beaten by Athlone. The big match in the League of Ireland Division 1 is Longford Town against Athlone Town. Derry City are away to UCD. The big match there is Shamrock Rovers against St Pat's. Harps, we've been saying it on this programme, a great start to the season, but a real struggle since, John Joe. And I mean, everybody in the county is interested in the Harps situation and loves to see them going well and don't like to see them going badly. Yeah,
it must be really frustrating for the soccer people of the county to think, of the amount of coverage that overseas soccer gets, because I would be very much into the live and the local, so it's a pity. I've seen a picture in the paper there lately of the stands at a recent Fun Harps match, and regardless how the team are going, I think the soccer people in the county should be trying to get along.
Sparse crowd at that game.
Exactly so, and it's Fun Harps are as much the tradition of the county as the GAA is.
Absolutely. Big match in the Ulster Senior League, Drumkeen United against Derry City Reserves on Thursday night out in St Patrick's Park. Drumkeen could go 6 points clear. That's a wee club going very well at the moment, Drumkeen United. They won the Ulster Senior League with some achievement for them.
Well, listen, as I said, it's very, very difficult to keep these clubs going up and down the country with emigration and everything else. Anybody that's involved and anybody that's doing well deserves as much credit as possible.
Heard a report just before we came in to record. James McLean is on his way from Sunderland to Wigan, apparently. Sunderland have accepted an offer for him, and three men very much in the news: Gareth Bale, Wayne Rooney and Luis Suarez. Suarez doing his best to get out of Liverpool. Wouldn't you love to give him a kick in the backside, John Joe?
Yeah, I have a brother that's a big Liverpool man, and I think Georgie would give Suarez a road to this stage.
I think they should let him go.
Ordering a taxi he would be instead of trying to keep him.
Absolutely. And finally, in golf, the USPGA Championships on at Oak Hill, and there's 6 Irish players there: Rory McIlroy, Graham McDowell, Darren Clark, Padraig Harrington, Paul McGinley, the Ryder Cup captain, and Shane Lowry will be in the first group out on Thursday morning. Paul McGinley's playing along with Tom Watson and Darren Clark, and of course Tiger Woods will be the favourite for that. But the big thing, believe it or not, Tiger Woods hasn't won a major since 2008, so that's beginning to prey on his mind.
I think you're due a trip out to see if Charlie you're bound to be.
And you know this, John Joe, I'd love to, but having time at the moment, unfortunately. Maybe next year. John Joe, great pleasure having you in to Talking Sport. We really appreciate you taking out the time to come in and talk to us today.
No problem, Charlie. Thank you.
That's it from Talking Sport for this week. We'll be back next week when we'll be looking forward in depth to the Donegal All-County Championship, Senior Championship, quarter-finals, among other things.